Thanks, everyone. We're extremely delighted to be here. A good day to everyone and a warm welcome to our panelists for this wonderful panel discussion. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of takeaways for us today. A quick introduction about myself. I am yet another quality freak in the vast domain of quality who happens to be a test architect at IBM. I love to break things and build from scratch. No wonder I got into testing and drive automation across the organization. I have worked pretty much on every technology except rocket science. So it's easy for me to often use the phrase, hey, it's not rocket science. I love tennis, but I don't play. Finally, catching up on my loss for books since the pandemic. So enough about me. It gives me immense pleasure once again to invite our panelists. Now let's go around the room and ask the speakers to introduce themselves. So maybe we'll start with Boby.
Thank you, Sundar. I'm Boby Jose. I'm in this domain more than 2 decades. All sort of testing, from test management, test automation, manual testing, and different domains, both consulting and product-based testing. So last decade, I've been mainly based out of London, UK, working on consulting domain, testing, managing testing in various industries. So yeah, my experience also spread across to different industries, public and private sectors, secure sector, and various kind of domains, retail, healthcare, travel and transport, etc. Currently, along with a regular full-time job, I have been working on a book on test automation. I'll share more details. Watch the space. That's all about me. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Boby. Sonali, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonali. I have total 14 years of experience in QA. I started my career as a automation tester, and then I got chance to work around multiple tools and in multiple domains, and that's how I built my expertise. I have developed multiple framework, both scriptless and scripted, and also analyze which tools should be used while you are starting your testing. I have maintained the framework, I have created the frameworks. So that's all about me.
Cool. Thanks, Sonali. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, just checking that the mute button doesn't do anything bad. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Chris Armstrong. I'm a QA strategist with Provar testing, and I've been in the testing QA space for almost 17 years. I've worked in computer games, smart energy metering, education, fintech, aeronautical, oscilloscopes and data loggers, and now where I am now is sort of helping to talk to clients about QA strategy, both in automation and in other areas. I do a podcast called The Testing Peers every fortnight, and we talk about all things to do with testing, quality, and leadership.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Laveena, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I've been a software tester for over 8 years now. So the baby in the panel session. And I fed into testing. I had no clue what testing was. It was my first ever graduate role where they said, are you happy to go and do some test analysis? And I said, yes, why not? And that's how my career started. I've been testing in various industries, from oil and gas to retail, manufacturing, as well as banking. So I'm quite enjoying my journey, and I hope to learn a lot from the panelists and everyone else around. And yeah, last year itself, I just came out of my own comfort zone and became a speaker. So quite enjoying that, and I hope that I continue sharing and learning from all of you.
Cool. Thanks, Laveena, and thanks everyone for the quick and nice introduction. Now, as for the topic, it's a very interesting one for me, at least, and I'm sure it's for all of you. The test pyramid, or some of us call it as the automation pyramid or the test automation pyramid. And is it still relevant today? So that's really the topic. Just to kind of quickly deep dive here, I'm just going to borrow this from Prajesh. Not every application is built for NASA, but then testing requires a structure. So where to invest in terms of your automation to get better returns. And this is where the test pyramid developed by Martin Fowler and his team comes in handy, where they suggest that invest in adding more coverage to unit testing and less in end-to-end testing as we go along the top of the pyramid, kind of yields better results. So now let's go over and listen to our panelists' opinion on what do they think. Is the test automation pyramid relevant today? Is there something else bigger and better that we must be aware of? Maybe let's start with Boby. So can you please go ahead and give us your opinion? Boby, I think you're on mute.
About that. In testing, especially people generally say too much of testing is a sin and too less is a crime. The automation pyramid is very useful, or test pyramid is very useful to define your test strategy and test you. Now again, when we do any testing, it is manual testing or test automation, it's a right mix of testing or fit for purpose. That's what I call. And I go back to that same statement. We don't want to test anything too much or too less. We need the right level of testing that is fit for purpose. And the automation pyramid or test pyramid, that's a good framework to design your test strategy and various levels, which will give an indication what level of testing needs to be done, what kind of testing, and when. And it will help to define the test approach and the level of automation required. For example, unit testing. We all agree that unit testing is required, useful. But when you take it to a bigger picture, like there are other factors like the product should or project should complete the implementation, reach to the market within the budget, and again fit for the business, the end users. So the framework, the test pyramid will help to define a test approach, but it should be in line with the business objectives. That's what I'm trying to communicate. So in my experience, I worked in both product-based companies and consulting companies over a long period in consulting companies. You go to a client or you pick up a product, you need to form a test strategy or a test plan, and then you need to fit various kind of testing. But again, you need to see a bigger picture, and this kind of framework will more like a checklist to ensure that okay, we do all this kind of testing. But at the same time, what I recommend, don't pick up any framework and blindly try to implement. You need to see the solution and see whether it is required. So the automation pyramid or test pyramid is very much relevant, but the more important aspect is how to use it. And I'll give one more example. You take unit testing. Unit testing can be performed manually and automated, but based on your situation, solution, and you decide which approach you need to follow. Don't follow any framework blindly. But a test pyramid is very much useful to define and design the test approach and test strategy and approach. Thank you. You're on mute, Sundar.
Yeah, sorry, and thanks, Boby. So yeah, test pyramid that aligns with the business objectives is definitely a pro in terms of adopting it, right? Chris, what's your say on this?
There we go. It's always fun watching the camera pop on and off. So I guess for me, I would echo what Boby said there and really say it's context specific. I think it's really important to understand your own requirements, your own people, your own budget, your own timescales. The test pyramid, the automation pyramid, the triangle, whatever we want to call it, that is a useful point of reference. It helps you to have an argument about what levels we should or we shouldn't be aiming to do some automation. It's not saying that we should exclude certain things, and within certain contexts and certain businesses, I think it's fair to say that you should apply more weight to certain areas within that pyramid than in others. I mean, I've worked in areas where there was no UI, so that whole topic would be chopped off. But I think it's also incredibly important to say that if you were to take it just as gospel, like with any of these models, straight into your context, the context for which it was written won't look exactly like your own. And so you need to look at it and learn for yourself. Use that testing brain that you have, the critical thinking, the curiosity, and the understanding of the bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve. And then from that, try and apply it to your own context, along with other readings and learnings that you'll have had from other areas. So do use it, but don't use it alone, because it will probably come and bite you.
Cool, thanks. So yeah, of course, I do agree that it depends on a lot on the context of the test, and yeah, also to apply the tester's mindset is also important. Sonali, what do you think? Is it still relevant that we still use the test pyramid?
I completely actually agree with Chris. It's based on the context. First of all, let's understand why you need a test pyramid. The thing is that when you are developing your test strategy, like what you want to test, during that time you bring into picture the test pyramid. So like what test pyramid says, like how much you should test and save your cost. It should be that is the whole purpose of using a test pyramid. Now considering the fact what should be the pyramid structure, what should be on the top, what should be on the bottom, like this all based on the context. Like for example, if I was long back working with a publishing book publishing domain, where that client didn't have actually a UI. So in that case, like I agree to Chris, there is no meaning of having a UI testing. But again, if I take another example, if someone is just ask you to test a screen which has only one page, it has very less UI, and in that case, do you really need more unit testing? Definitely not. And do you need in that case more UI testing, because it's just one page? And in that, I'm just saying, and in that case, you would be like to test what are the features you are providing in that one page. That functionality should be working perfectly fine before you are jumping into any other things. Similarly, but if you are suppose in sprint and you have multiple pages application, and in that case, like you want to do the faster way, in that case, what you are doing, if you are going to first testing your UI is bound to test change continuously, because it is not fully developed, it is in progress. In such case, but you also want to test whatever you are developing in that particular sprint, that should be tested, means working perfectly fine. So in that case, definitely you would be going for that approach, like you would be doing the unit testing when you are developing your code, and after that time you would be doing your API testing, checking all your functionalities are working fine, means your database is talking to your front end via this APIs, and all your to your front end, all these data are coming properly and going also to the database properly. Then you are at last you are testing your UI. So that's what I am in favor of test pyramid, but again, it is a context based one.
Cool. Sure. So we're all in agreement that it's a context-based one, and so far it is pro-test pyramid. So Laveena, where are you on this topic?
I completely agree with everyone, and I really echo what Chris said. 100% agree. When it's useful, again, Boby said, according to a budget, you also need to think those kind of areas. Again, test pyramid comes in different shapes. I think Chris mentioned it. I drew this out earlier. It's very different for everyone, every project. Some projects don't even have it. So it's very, very different. You need to put yourself in each project and think, right, let me tick off what's already there. And let me see how I can bring more quality in here with other frameworks or strategies. When I joined my project, there was no testing strategy. So my first step was, right, let me check the pyramid and let me see what's there, what we can bring actually. So it was very, very heavy in unit, but that's about it. And then slowly started getting into integration, and then we had a UI, and then slowly got into UI. Now, obviously, we need to think about the cost and time as well. The lower base, obviously, unit, it's quicker to do, it's less expensive, and the higher up you go, the more time it takes, and the more expensive it gets, especially with UI tests. So in my opinion, obviously agree with what everyone's mentioned. And I would say if it improves your software quality, if it simplifies your routine tasks, and you are bringing more quality through this, then I would definitely go for it. But again, for every project, it's different. Some might agree, some might not agree. Some even call it's very traditional, so we don't want to follow the traditional routes. Some say it's fine, we can follow it. So it's all about a team discussion. And some people don't even know about testing pyramid in your team. So it's about introducing these kind of frameworks in your team and growing more testing eminence around this area. So I would just say, introduce it and explain the value behind it, and then whatever the team decides, you can all kind of collaborate towards it.
Cool, thank you. So I think yeah, that's wonderful. So using the test pyramid to kind of apply to your test strategy is also very important. So thanks for that takeaway. And of course, the return on our investment all depends on value invest along the test pyramid. Cool. Thanks a lot. And I'm sure all of us are in agreement. And then we also agree that the test pyramid is very much relevant today. I'm just going to kind of ask a few direct questions to the panelists. But what I would encourage the audience is to start asking their Q&A along the way. And we will pick up a few questions and start asking them. But maybe I can start with Laveena. So how do we kind of apply the automation pyramid, especially if you have to test a data science or an analytics system? How do we kind of fit in the different strategies there?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, my first ever plan in my test strategy into the team was to bring a pyramid, understand what we have, what we don't have. And if we have it, then are we doing it correctly or not? So that was my first step. We had very heavy unit level tests, and we didn't at one point we didn't even have UI tests, even though a UI existed. But obviously, because it was constantly being improved, enhanced, we couldn't really have like a UI level test for a very long time. So I think a UI level test came a year after, which was just a happy path. But I'm sure there's more to elaborate there. But yeah, I mean, it's very different for each team. For my team, we didn't have a lot of automated checks in terms of end-to-end. We just had one UI level, which was the top part of the pyramid. We had quite a lot of API-related system integration tests, which I was actually testing through Postman or Swagger. So that was there, and the unit side of things were completely developers' remit. So that's where I started, and I found it quite useful. No one in the team knew about it, so it was nice to introduce a new area to them. So you can use this in a data science model area as well. It's just about strategizing. What do you want out of it? How is this going to improve the team in general? And as I said earlier, there might be teams who don't even want this, but if you can, then why not? That's how I would put it. So yes, you can have a pyramid in a data science model, and even be involved in all of the stages. You don't have to only be involved in the UI level. So that's my kind of a response to your question, Sundar. I hope I answered it accurately.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, of course. It's interesting because even if I think of it, I really struggle to apply the test pyramid, especially in a data analytics kind of a project. Always think that it is only UI, and what else to do. But yeah, I do get the point that applying the test strategy in different levels does help. Sonali, and this is an interesting question for me, which I always wanted to ask you, is that between scripted and scriptless frameworks, what will be your first choice? And then does scriptless frameworks, and especially these days, we see a lot of scriptless frameworks that keep coming up. Does it outweigh the lower level unit test in an automation pyramid? Is that a kind of a what is that upcoming tool that's going to kind of disrupt the whole test pyramid at some point? Can you share some insights?
See, there is no fixed answer to this, that whether one likes scriptless or scripted based framework. It's about like when you are starting your testing, few factors you need to consider. First thing, and one of such factor is your resource skill set. What are your resources skill sets is, if they are knowing the coding or not. In such case, then you if suppose you have very less budget for your testing and you hired your resources who does not know any programming language, so in that case you would prefer to go for a scriptless tool or a scriptless framework, where you would be having some automation architect who would be developing for you the scriptless framework, and you are providing that platform to the manual tester or the other QA who would be using those components, or you can say the if you are going by BDD based, then writing just the feature file, already the step definition would have been written and they would be going it. But coming to your question was also, will that eradicate your lower level of unit testing? That definitely no, because when you are providing a scriptless framework or a tool to the tester to use it and develop their test and scenario on top of it, if your the scriptless framework or the scriptless tool itself is buggy in nature, then how can the test built on it will be perfect, and how can you assure the quality of the application? So definitely unit testing is needed, but here the unit testing would be two kind of unit testing. One, which the developer would be doing for their developed code, and another thing is that the scriptless framework or the scriptless tool which has been provided to the testers, that should have been also been done unit testing, at least ensuring that whatever the step definition or the code has been written to provide those components to the tester, those should be working fine. I hope that answers your questions.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand the fundamental aspect of what you said, especially the scriptless framework itself could be something that is buggy enough, which just also kind of throws this question: hey, should we kind of always rely on a scriptless framework or something of that sort? Maybe the answer is not yes, and maybe we should do a lot of POCs before we go ahead with it. And of course, not to leave the fundamental levels of testing, which is unit and your service test and among other things along the pyramid. Boby, have a quick two-part question for you. How do we kind of convince a client to kind of adopt a test automation pyramid, and especially in a service-oriented industry? It's very hard to actually get a client to kind of agree to do a variety of tests, right? And along with that, would you also recommend automation for all things functional and non-functional testing? what I see is that this has become the norm where we tend to automate everything. So I just want to know, are we losing the forest for the fire? So,
okay. Life is too short for manual testing, right? People always say, even though it is not correct, manual testing is also very important. It's a challenging when it comes to a service-based or consulting company, because you are part of or either a large organization. You are a trusted partner or a supplier to deliver to an overall solution. So in these days, when it comes to consulting and IT services, most of the cases it's a large setup or a multi-vendor, multi-supplier area, and there are a lot of companies. Some of them compete each other. They all work together, and it is always a challenge in that case. So let me give a few examples. The companies like Thomas Cook or Debenhams, what happened to them? Kodak. So some of them already disappeared from the market, right? Other side, we can see Amazon, Uber. They heavily use technology for their advancement. So the business is, so probably a decade back, people used to tell IT is there to support business. Now, but we can see it's all changed. Now IT is the main business. So when it comes to automation, both functional and non-functional, non-functional is most of the cases people really struggle to understand, because it is many organizations, it is either probably a performance testing, a security testing, and in modern days application cloud technologies, it's difficult to, the lack of knowledge about the infrastructure testing, IT service continuity, resilience, failover and failback, monitoring, alert, all those things. And some of those areas, test automation is quite difficult. It is not an easy task. And it is difficult to get people with good expertise to, first of all, design that solution, test it, and automate it. When it comes to functional, it is so easy, right? But my experience is in product-based companies, they usually strictly follow unit testing and move to functional automation and regression testing, because they have multiple releases, multiple platforms, and multiple environments. So they have a proper regression pack so they can run, and that adds a lot of values. Moving to consulting, service-based, time is always a problem. Cost is another important thing, because if you are working on a time and material, fine, you can take probably slightly more time and deliver because you are paid. But if it is a fixed price, fixed budget project, you can't do anything because your budget is fixed, and some of those automation technologies, tools that are a lot more cost and time. So it's always a pressure. People always ask, you are doing a unit testing, why do you want to do a system testing or an integration testing? Or can't we merge a system integration testing or end-to-end testing with UAT? And in most of the cases, it makes sense also. You don't want to go and test an end-to-end integration testing using a set of professional testers, then move to another couple of months UAT. You don't have time, you don't have the money. And we all mostly face a situation, right? The implementation, when it comes to testing, you're always against the wall. You are always asked as a test manager, before you start the test approach, you will come across with a situation that reduce the testing or follow a different approach. So in a consulting industry, it's always difficult. If there is an existing tool, you need to really show the value of automation, and then you need to look beyond a go live. Like, are we going to use all these things post live situation? Because some cases you test it, you push it to live, you may not come back and check very often. So it is again back to the same point, fit for purpose. So before you suggest and look into a test pyramid, see what is fit for purpose, and then you don't need to really put it across a framework and say, okay, we are testing everything based on this framework. People immediately will challenge. You use it in your back pocket and as a reference.
Cool. Thank you. I think there used to be this adage, there is life beyond .com a couple of decades back, but now what I understand is there's more to the test pyramid than what is defined there. There's more testing that needs to be done from an operations maintainability point of view. Again, it all fits to the client's purpose. So thanks for that, Boby. Chris, I have a very fundamental question, something that's actually lacking in this industry, which is, according to you, what should be a fundamental test strategy that every QA unit must follow to succeed in their delivery strategy?
Yeah, it's quite a broad question. I guess the question again comes down to context, like what is the delivery strategy? How often are we wanting to release things? Will inform some of the things that we will be doing towards a test strategy. Also, who are the people, and what are the priorities of the business, and things like how much money, how much time, and what kind of methodology are we working in. All of those things will inform us, because if we are trying to work in an agile way or a DevOps way, that will really change the makeup of the people much more than perhaps the tooling that we will choose. And so it's about pulling in the context to inform those things. But I think it's also important to say that we're all experienced people. We've all got things that we've used in the past that have been really successful in one place or even in the same place. But industries change, people's change. So it's important for us to keep ourselves up to date on new ideas, both those that we agree with and those that we don't. Attending conferences like this, reading up on blogs, listening to podcasts, webinars and things are really important for us to keep us stimulated, because as testers, it's a craft. It's something that requires our minds to be stimulated and to continuously learn. So a strategy that we have has to be something that is continued to be adapted all the time. It cannot be a published document that we then just leave to the side. It has to be something that is living, that people are aware of, that we reference, and it is actually relevant. And for that, it needs to be collaboratively created. Everybody who is involved in the quality of our product needs to be involved in the quality strategy. And for those things, that might be that you start off with whiteboarding with everyone involved in your product development, or a select few people. You find out the priorities. What are the quality aspects? What are we trying to achieve with our product? What problems are we trying to solve? And from then we can identify the best ways that we might want to test, because what we want to test will sometimes be best tested automated. Some of it will be best if we do it exploratory. Sometimes it's best to do in other ways, and we need to find that balance, and we need to try the right things and then iterate on it, learn from it, do retrospectives, find the bits that worked, find the bits that didn't, have those conversations and update, and be willing to accept that what you've done the first time, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, or maybe it was the right thing to do, but we didn't have the right people, the right resources. So try to then collaboratively find solutions to those problems, and to get better at those things. Continuously learn collaboratively. The idea of a strategy is quite high level. I always saw it, I was taught about it as the idea of being in a sports team. Say you're playing basketball and your strategy is to win the league, but your plan, and I would expect to have a lot of plans, your plan may be something that's much more granular and around one specific area. So perhaps I'm playing against the LA Lakers and my plan needs to be how I'm going to stop LeBron James being a tremendously good player to win. And so my plan is going to be really granular and aimed at one particular thing, but my strategy is winning the league. And so I need to have a whole load of different players who will have different skills, different ways of attacking or defending, and all these other things to pool in to make a good, strong strategy, as opposed to just having one surefire way to do stuff. Because if you only do attack a problem one way, eventually you're going to miss a whole bunch of things.
Cool, I agree. I mean, attacking a problem one way is actually going to be a problem. And of course, I do understand. I mean, a collaboration is a huge area that, or a skill set that a test engineer must actually cultivate. That also kind of answers one of my questions. What are the essential skill sets that you look for in a tester? That's cool. So talking of podcasts that Chris mentioned, so there's a question for you. Do you have a link to your podcast that you could share, please?
Yes. Yeah. I'll put it into the chat now. It's very simple. Peers.com. Everything you can find there. But we're on everyone's favorite podcast platforms. So please do check it out. And also, as I said, if you don't like things we've said, if you think we do, feedback, tell people that you've got a different point of view or you want to understand different conversations from different people. The podcast that we have is 4 different testers who work in 4 different environments, some regulatory, some startups. We've got different backgrounds academically and professionally. And so we already have a bit of a discourse, but the world of testing is so diverse and it's got loads of different requirements. And I think it's really important that we don't just assume that I've got the right answer and carry on, and we have this continued discourse.
Cool, thanks. That was a question from Mike. Thanks for that question. Second one is from Afra. I found it on Spotify, Testing Peers. Afra, could you please kind of elaborate the question again in this chat, if you can? That will help. So maybe I'll sorry.
I think he was just replying to Mike's question.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, I missed the context. Sorry. So hey, there's a question from Jocelyn. Testing pyramid versus test automation pyramid. Do you think testing is more broad to be confined to the limits of what is mentioned in the pyramid? That's something roughly what Boby answered. But would you like to kind of take this question?
Question to me, right?
Yeah, that was a question to you. So,
could you please repeat it?
Testing pyramid versus test automation pyramid. Do you think testing is more broad to be confined to the limits of what is mentioned in the pyramid?
The testing, the automation pyramid or test automation pyramid and testing pyramid, right? It's mainly that concept. It is that structured concept and that is basically we follow, right? If we can find defects early, that will reduce the cost, that will reduce the effort to fix. Right. And same for test automation as well. So if we can do a proper unit testing and then move to system integration, it can be manual or automated, doesn't matter. And then that ideally reduces the cost, but it is not always easy, right? It's unit testing is, first of all, as you already mentioned, so we need to see the return on investment, because some of those unit tests, if it's a unit test or just calling an API and it doesn't weigh any return in terms of or benefit, then we don't go and automate it. First of all, we may not do it a manual unit test also. Forget about automation. So yeah, testing has a wider meaning. And test automation, we should approach a bit more carefully. We don't, in my 2 decades of career, I have seen a lot of failures in test automation because people try to mimic a success in one place to another place. People try to copy or just go through textbook-based definitions or try to automate 100% of manual test or 100% functional test. So you need to really see a balanced approach before you really look into test automation. And say that is very much also because it is creating or automating something or creating or using a framework, long-term maintenance. You need the right resources and whether it is required or not.
I think we lost Boby.
I think he's frozen. Yeah. Yeah. I would like to add to this, actually. Can I?
Mm-hmm.
See,
yeah,
I think initially the question was asked in context of whether manual testing also relevant or not. With that aspect, I believe that the question was asked because many people think that testing pyramid means that it's about the layers, how you have to do the manual testing, and test automation pyramid means how you have to do the layers of the automation testing, what way you have to do it. But like, see, initially when the test automation pyramid has been discovered, it was like Martin has discovered, like, it is unit testing, after that API testing, but UI testing. But over the period of time, it has been evolved. Like, there is no fixed kind of definition, or a pyramid is there, or a shape is there, you can say. Like Laveena was showing, there are 3 different shapes. Like, similarly, like, based on your own need, your time to test, and the cost to test. I had seen pyramids, like, when the test strategies are developed, it's like you are doing the unit testing, after that you are doing the component testing, then after that you are doing the integration testing on top of it, then on top of that you are again doing your API testing, then you will be doing your end-to-end testing, then on top of that your UI testing is there. Again, some places there would be a manual testing would be there, where it would be like a cloud. And then some other places, like I also have seen it, like there is a unit testing is there, and then after that you are doing the system testing and end-to-end testing, which is again at the UI level. Then you are completely eradicating or omitting the API testing, or if it is a need base, you are doing it. And then after that you are doing this regression testing, where your automation testing come into picture. But with, like I have spent at least a decade in this industry. With the time flow, like I have seen the changes. Like, now the automation testing is definitely not limited only to this regression testing. So it's like how you want to save your cost and the less time, because people these days want everything faster, like a fast food kind of thing. I want everything, my quality should be good, my cost should be less, and my testing should be faster. So in that case, like, you should decide what kind of pyramid you want based on how much your budget you have, what is time limit you have, and at the same time, what is your skill set, and what is the testability, like what you are exactly testing.
Yeah. Certainly. I mean, yeah, of course, the context plus not to kind of define within the convenience of a pyramid. And of course, if I can just add to what you said, I mean, there's more. I mean, a test engineer should know every aspect of testing, right from the technical stack all the way to the domain, to how the software is delivered, and how to kind of even collaborate with your customers to make it a complete success. So yeah, thanks for the inputs. So maybe I'll just move on to the next question quickly, and hopefully, can you shed some light on how to combine and see the results of all types of testing results? Would Chris or Sonali, anyone wants to take this?
I can take a stab at it. So reporting again is guess what? Context specific. It depends on who we're reporting to and what we're going to use it for. If we have specific customers, or we have say, for example, you work in an environment that's regulated and you have to have particular structured reports for those things, that will look differently compared to if we just want to keep them for ourselves, just to monitor progress, how well we're doing versus last time sort of regressions and such. Now, with regard to combining those things, I'm a big fan of having a very visual way of looking at this. I don't want to dwell too long on any reports. I don't want to have to read reams and reams of paper that once it's published, it's kind of old. I want something that's going to give me the information that I need, and then I can move on and actually do some work. So it needs to be useful. And in that context, I've enjoyed using things like a dashboard in a Jira, and to collate that information, perhaps having a decent test management tool that's embedded within those, or you're making use of plugins or a way to visually represent those things. I have been guilty of using spreadsheets in the past. They do work, they're not ideal. But yeah, trying to just get these pooled together in some way. I quite liked using X-Ray in a previous job, but other tools are available.
Cool. So I think if I can borrow a dialogue from the S Minister, if you have used X-Ray, you're very courageous.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for that. And we just move on. There are a couple of questions here. And I'm afraid I do not have the users who have actually asked this question or the attendees. So how test pyramid brings up success to the development team? Sonali, would you like to take a...
So thing is that it is not only brings success to the development team, but it will bring the success to the entire product. So like for the development team, what is the testing? The testing is the unit testing, and it is the more code coverage, like what you are writing that code, like what functionality you are writing. It should be doing that, and there should not be any loophole. But if development means if unit testing is sufficient enough, then there would be never need of any QA or SDET, right? But still we need it, and so it is test pyramid ensures that like you have done enough unit testing so that when you are developing and you have not deployed that code to the QA environment for the testing, during that time itself, if you are catching your bugs, then your cost of the bug is very less. Then and there you are fixing it, and you are saving much time. So I believe in that way it brings a success for the development team. But it is not just limited to the development team, but it is because it is, if you see in the agile way, there is no development team or QA team. Everyone is responsible for the product quality.
Yep.
So yes, test pyramid, it will bring the success to entire product if it is properly followed. And first of all, if like I again and again stress, it should be realized what your test pyramid should be. Like Chris said it, there is no particular one plan for a success for here.
Cool. Thanks. And welcome back, Bobby. We missed you for some time. Hey, so we're just going over the attendees' questions. So I think about 10 minutes to go. So,
apologies. Apologies, I need to check my network connection. I need to test my network connection too.
Okay. Cool. We're always testers. Testers first and business specialists later. So yeah, the question is, are there any models the panel recommends to aid us with testing strategies? And actually, first. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that one. The answer is there are many, but I quite like the sort of the breadth that is considered in the heuristic testing strategy model that was originally coined by Michael Bolton and James Buck, and has been taken a step further by Dan Ashby. He has done this wonderful model for testing, which goes, it's very inclusive of automation, but it talks about continuous testing. It talks about having automated testing aligned with scripted, aligned with exploratory testing, and it talks about the different areas that we can test. It talks about testing ideas. It talks about testing requirements. It talks about testing artifacts and designs and processes. And from that, we get an idea of perceived quality. That's a brilliant model. I would recommend everyone take a look at it. Dan's a great thought leader in the testing world. I'm going to put it in the chat because I would highly recommend you read it. But there are so many different ideas people have got for testing strategies. Just Google around, have a look at these different ideas. Take time to listen to what people have got to say, because there is no one size fits all for all of these things.
Got it. Thanks, Chris. So, yeah, couple of more questions. The test automation pyramid, or the attendee calls it as diamond, talks more about focusing on integration tests. What's your take? Sonali or Bobby?
I can take this question. Integration testing is definitely required, because once you do any, unit testing or component testing, after that you should be checking when you are testing an integration, it should work fine or not. So, like I said, there is multiple layers get added to this pyramid with the time it had got added. So I would say that integration testing, it has been a part of it. Like if I'm doing this API testing and I tested one API, but I have not tested in the end-to-end flow in integration with the other API. Like if I have sent some posted something, and then after that I want to check in other page that whether that data has been posted or not. So for that I have to do a get request. And another thing, suppose like say I placed an order, then after that I want to see my order ID, and after that I want to check track my order, like whether it has been dispatched or not, or delivered or not. So there would be multiple APIs would be there, or if you are checking the UI, there would be multiple UIs would be there. So if you are not doing the integration testing, I would suggest more at the API levels. If you are not doing it, then how would you know that how these data are talking to each other in integrations?
That's a valid point. Without validating the data, what's the point in actually even testing the UI, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Thanks, Sonali. That makes sense. Final question here. So and this is from Shitji. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
It is, I believe. Kitties B.
Okay. Cool, thanks. My test pyramid is upside down with a thick UI test layer. I think it's the upside down cone. What approach would you suggest to attempt to fix this? Bobby, would you like to take this?
Sorry, could you please repeat that question?
Yeah, my test pyramid is upside down with a thick UI test layer. What approach would you suggest to attempt to fix this?
Okay, again, my the opening notes, as I mentioned, it is fit for purpose. In some application, it's a heavy UI. Some application, it's a heavy end-to-end. Like your system will interact with multiple other external systems and develop and maintained by different parties. And some cases, just now Sonali mentioned about, it's a system which has to integrate, talk to each other within the same system. So APIs, web services, all sort of things. So it can be upside down. There can be more focus on the thick UI testing. So you need to form. So typically, right, some of the application there is no UI, so UI is completely out of scope, and vice versa. Some application the unit level testing is not required. For example, if you take a commercially off-the-shelf product and just configure, or you mostly use out of the box, and then probably you limit your testing, or you optimize your testing wherever it is required, and that is pretty much true for both manual and automation. So framework, test strategy, it's like a template. If you take a test strategy or test plan template and then add content to that template and develop, but you never stick yours to that template. That if you realize you need to add something beyond that template or delete something, you do that. Then that is pretty much true for this model also, this pyramid also. It is relevant, but you need to take a holistic view of where exactly I need to use. Is it really required for my product or project, and how much I need to do that. If we blindly follow a framework, we will end up with facing problems, and people may start to challenge. But if you take a compare your requirements with the framework, the pyramid, and see, and then you map and see whether it is required or not. If it is required, use it. If it is not required, don't go anywhere near that. Because I think the automation, that is one of the challenges we are facing, right? People just blindly go and try to automate or try to mimic success from some other project or some other product. No, you need to take a holistic view.
Cool, thank you. I think we are already at the top of the hour, and I see after joining us. So I would like to thank everybody who joined us today, and thanks a lot, Chris, Sonali, Boby, and Laveena, for taking the time for this fruitful discussion. I'm sure everyone had a lot of takeaway from today's session. I would like to thank TestFest and Sneha for bringing us together for this session today. And over to you, Aftab.
Thank you.